October brought with it a cold but clear morning. The streets of the small town were blanketed with fallen leaves, creating a kaleidoscope of vibrant autumn colors. Emily, a young woman with long chestnut hair, stood by the window of her home, taking in the picturesque scene. Her home was an old Victorian mansion, passed down to her from her grandmother. The mansion was shrouded in legends and stories, each of which had captivated Emily with its mysterious charm. She had always felt a special connection to this place, and when she moved here after her grandmother's passing, she decided to keep the house in its original state. Emily loved Halloween. This holiday had been special to her since childhood, and every year she meticulously decorated her home, turning it into a true house of horrors. This year, she had many new ideas and eagerly looked forward to the preparations. As she began unpacking a box of decorations, she thought she heard a faint whisper. Emily froze, listening intently. The sound repeated, but now it was more distinct, like the whisper of a woman, coming from a distance. Emily scanned the room but saw no one. Thinking it might be a hallucination, fueled by her imagination and anticipation of the holiday, she continued unpacking the decorations. However, when the lights in the room dimmed and only one candle was left, casting the room in partial darkness, Emily realized that something was amiss. She felt a gentle breath on her neck and suddenly heard a clear whisper right by her ear. "Help me." Emily recoiled instantly, dropping the box of decorations. She glanced at the candle and saw the dark reflection of a woman in an old Victorian dress, which vanished in an instant. Emily's heart raced. She realized that her home, which had always felt cozy and secure, had now become a source of the unknown and the otherworldly. Emily stood in the semi-darkness of her home, her heart pounding, her gaze darting around the room in search of the apparition she had just seen. Her attention was drawn to a large antique mirrored wardrobe in the corner of the room. A murky, ghostly figure appeared on its surface. The whisper that Emily had heard earlier returned, now more distinct, as if someone was trying to convey a message to her. "Help me," the words repeated. With determination, Emily approached the wardrobe and gently touched the mirror's surface. Before her eyes, the figure became more discernible. It was a woman in a long Victorian dress with wavy hair and somber eyes. "Who are you?" Emily whispered. The woman in the reflection moved her lips, but the words were soundless. She tried again, and this time Emily heard. "I am Clarissa." Emily frantically recalled that her grandmother, who had passed down the house to her, was named Clarissa. In that moment, she realized she was seeing the soul of her relative. "What do you want?" Emily asked. Clarissa in the reflection slowly raised her hand and pointed to the old wardrobe. Emily scrutinized it closely and noticed that in the corner of the wooden surface, there was a peculiar, amulet-like shape carved into it. Emily understood that Clarissa wanted her to find this amulet and unravel the mystery associated with it. But what did it mean? She had no idea where to start. Over the next few days, Emily spent her time by the old wardrobe, attempting to decipher the meaning of this riddle. She delved into her grandmother's old records and discovered mentions of a mysterious amulet that, according to Clarissa, could unlock a chain of events that had spanned generations. Emily spent sleepless nights, poring over all the records and artifacts she could find in the house. She discovered an old, tattered diary that belonged to Clarissa. The aged pages had become blurred with time, but a few entries remained legible. As soon as she began reading, the world of words and mysteries unfolded before her, slowly taking shape. Clarissa's entries described strange phenomena that occurred in the house and at the cemetery. They were accounts of ghosts, will-o'-the-wisps, and mysterious sounds that inspired fear. Emily was shaken by what had been happening in her home for many years. In one of the final entries, Clarissa wrote about a grave in the old cemetery, which she claimed held the key to the puzzle. Emily knew she had to go to this cemetery to find answers. The cemetery was abandoned and overgrown with wild vegetation. The shadow of the pavilion at its center cast a long patch on the tombstones and old grave markers. Emily walked among the graves until she found the one Clarissa had written about. The tomb was marked with a barely visible inscription, Elizabeth Montgomery, witch or victim. Emily examined the plaque but found nothing that could help her solve the mystery. She decided to try to open the tomb, and when she succeeded, she saw an antique amulet inside. Emily took the amulet in her hands and felt it tremble with an inexplicable energy. As soon as she touched the amulet, she began to have visions: fire, the element of water, and magic. Emily realized that this amulet was connected to witches and ancient rituals. Suddenly, the spirit of Clarissa appeared before her. She was transparent, but her eyes shone with clarity. "The amulet is the key to the truth," she whispered. "You must use it to summon me and uncover the truth about our family." Emily stood before an old tomb in the abandoned cemetery. The tomb had weathered with time, and the inscription, Elizabeth Montgomery, witch or victim, was barely visible. She was certain this was the tomb her grandmother had mentioned in her writings. Emily crouched down and began carefully clearing the tomb of leaves and dirt. When she had removed the accumulated debris from the plaque, she noticed a small pattern carved into the wood. The design resembled a peculiar amulet. Emily took scissors from her backpack and began carefully cutting out part of the wooden pattern. Gradually, the pattern took shape, and she realized that it was the key to unraveling the mystery. This pattern connected the amulet with the tomb, the family secret she was about to uncover. Emily's heart raced with excitement. She knew that this key could lead her to the answers she had been searching for. Soon, when the pattern was fully cut out, she gently brought it close to the amulet. Something unusual happened in that moment. The amulet began to glow with light, and Emily felt as if she had been transported through time. Instead of the cemetery, she was now surrounded by an entirely different atmosphere. Before her lay a vibrant village teeming with life and activity. In the distance, she could see women dressed in Victorian-era gowns, their hands adorned with amulets. Emily cautiously stepped into the past, sensing the scents and sounds of the Victorian era. Her heart pounded strongly, and feelings of both fear and excitement intermingled within her. She found herself on the streets of the village she had only heard about in stories, surrounded by women dressed in exquisite Victorian attire adorned with amulets similar to the one she held in her hands. Onlookers regarded her with skepticism and astonishment. Emily felt like a stranger in this world, but she was here for the answers concealed by the past. Suddenly, a woman appeared before her, rushing toward her with a joyful expression. It was Elizabeth, the woman Emily had seen in the old photograph and on the tombstone. "You've come," Elizabeth exclaimed, embracing Emily. I don't understand what's happening," Emily said, feeling confused. Elizabeth explained that they were in a time connected to their family lineage, and that Emily had to comprehend the significance of this world to unravel the mysteries of the past and present. "The amulet is the key to everything," Elizabeth said, pointing to the amulet in Emily's hands. "It can link our destinies and reveal the truth." Emily agreed, and they began their quest for answers. Elizabeth revealed family secrets and how a witch was connected to their family. Emily realized that the amulet was created by the witch and contained magical power. Together, they journeyed to the site of an ancient, antiquated church, the location of their family's magical rituals. There, they discovered ancient scrolls that confirmed the family's connection to witches and magic. Emily understood that her mission was now to unlock the amulet's secrets and break the curse that had long hung over her family. With confidence, she held the amulet in her hands and recited the incantation recorded in the ancient scrolls. The amulet glowed brightly, and Emily realized that she had returned to her world. But she saw Clarissa's spirit once again. Clarissa smiled at her and then vanished. Emily understood that she had learned the truth about her family lineage and had broken the curse. However, she now faced many trials to protect the family's secrets and shield her family from magical forces that might turn hostile. After returning from the past, Emily was left with questions, but her primary goal was to protect her family from the magical forces that could be unleashed after breaking the curse. Halloween was approaching, and Emily decided to use this holiday to finally unravel the entire mystery. She returned to preparing her home, but now with a completely different approach. She began to explore the magical properties of the amulet and tried to use it wisely. She created a ritual that could protect her family and summon Clarissa if necessary. Halloween arrived, and Emily decorated her home in accordance with ancient traditions. The room was lit by candles, and enigmatic symbols adorned the walls. Emily invited her family and friends to a party to conceal her true intentions. As the night approached, strange events began to occur. Candles lit and extinguished on their own, and shadows and apparitions started seeping from the walls, just like the ones Emily had seen in the old photograph and in the past. Party guests began to sense an invisible presence and experience fear. Emily knew that her ritual was nearing its culmination, and it was time to summon Clarissa. She began reciting an incantation while holding the amulet. Suddenly, the amulet illuminated, and the figure of Clarissa emerged from it. She was transparent and appeared to her granddaughter on Halloween. "What's happening?" Emily asked. Clarissa explained that the magical forces unleashed had started to gain power and posed a threat to the entire town. Now, Emily had to stand up to protect her home and family. She advised Emily to use the amulet's magic to restore balance and neutralize the dark forces. Emily agreed and invited all the guests back to the room where the party was held. Emily took the amulet and began reciting the incantation alongside Clarissa. At that moment, a battle of magic and light against the dark forces of the past began. Emily and her grandmother gathered their strength and set everything right, closing portals and driving away the spirits. Halloween ended, but Emily knew that she would continue to fight against her family's magic and learn more about her ancestors. This was just the beginning of her journey into the world of magic and mysteries that she now had to unravel. After the battle with the dark magical forces had concluded, Emily felt that there was still much work ahead of her to restore balance in her family's lineage. Together with her grandmother Clarissa, they decided to start unraveling the secrets hidden in the past to prevent future crises. In Elizabeth's diary, she found records of rituals conducted in their home on Halloween and how the family maintained the balance between light and dark magic. This balance had been disrupted long ago, and now it was time to restore it. With each passing day, Emily delved deeper into the world of magic and her family's mysteries. She learned from her grandmother, understood how to control the amulet, and how to harness its power for benevolent purposes. She also tried to establish contact with the spirits of her ancestors to seek their advice and support. However, in this world of magic, not everything was so simple. Family secrets concealed many dangers, and Emily felt a looming threat of dark forces wanting to reclaim their power. She realized she needed to strengthen her magical skills and gain self-confidence to protect her family and maintain the balance between light and dark magic. Her journey in the world of magic was just beginning, and she was ready to face all the challenges that awaited her in the future. With each day spent studying magic and unraveling family secrets, Emily grew stronger and more skilled. Her grandmother Clarissa was a reliable mentor, passing down knowledge and experience accumulated over generations. However, the path to magical mastery was long and challenging. Emily spent hours and days studying spells, magical symbols, and rituals that would help her strengthen the balance between light and dark magic. She crafted her own amulet, which became an integral part of her, infused with her energy and hopes. Every night, she practiced meditation and contacted the spirits of her ancestors. She communicated with restless spirits, helping them find peace and transition to the other side. This work not only brought her satisfaction, but also strengthened her connection with her family's spirits. One day, during meditation, Emily encountered the spirit of Elizabeth. Now she could better understand her great-grandmother's messages. Elizabeth warned her that family secrets could attract not only benevolent but also malevolent forces. She taught Emily how to protect her home from potential threats and how to use magic in the most challenging situations. Gradually, Emily became more confident in her abilities. She learned to ward off dark forces and maintain balance in her family's lineage. She realized that magic was not only a source of power, but also a responsibility to her ancestors and descendants. Each new day was an opportunity for her to learn more, grow stronger, and be prepared for new challenges. Emily was on the path to becoming a guardian of her family and a keeper of family secrets, continuing to explore the world of magic and mysteries. With each day spent in learning and practicing magic, Emily drew closer to uncovering her family's secrets. Her powers were growing, but so was her understanding of the dangers that could threaten her family and the entire town. One day, during a meditation session, Emily had a strange vision. She saw ominous shadows enveloping her home, beckoning dark forces. She realized that the balance she had worked so hard to restore had been disrupted once again. She immediately took her amulet and headed home to check its condition. There, she found the amulet tainted by an unwanted influence. It was a serious warning. Dark forces were awakening and attempting to regain their power. Emily decided to gather her family and inform them of the new threat. Grandmother Clarissa expressed deep concern and suggested reuniting their powers to protect their home and town from dark forces. Emily also turned to her friends, who were willing to support her in the fight against the impending danger. Initially, they started by safeguarding their home with the amulet and magical symbols. Then, Emily began to investigate the nature of the threat stemming from past magic. She discovered that there were magical artifacts hidden within the town that could be the key to the resurgence of dark forces. She and her team embarked on a search, studying ancient artifacts, records, and legends. As they unveiled the secrets, they encountered obstacles and dangers that became increasingly sinister. Dark forces started to display their might, creating terrifying phenomena and obstacles on their path. Emily understood that she had to find all the magical artifacts and return them to their rightful places to restore the balance and halt the looming threat. Her strength and determination grew with each new challenge, and she was prepared to go to great lengths in this magical battle for her home and family. Terrifying phenomena began to occur around them. Objects moved on their own, walls suddenly changed color, and their own shadows came to life. They realized that they had little time left before the dark forces would awaken fully and start wreaking havoc. Emily decided that it was time to confront this threat head-on. She and her team headed to the ancient library, where, according to legends, they would find the keys to unraveling the mysteries and the artifacts. In the library, they encountered many dangers. Books flew off shelves, their pages turned by themselves, and ancestral ghosts emerged from the walls. Combining their magical knowledge with physical courage, they ventured deeper into the library. There, they found an ancient scroll that described how to stop the dark forces. However, to perform this ritual, they needed to find the last artifact hidden in the most dangerous place, the underground beneath the city. Emily and her team descended into the underground, where they encountered terrifying traps and monsters. They used magical artifacts and powers they had accumulated to overcome obstacles. Finally, they reached a deep cave where the last artifact was located. It was immensely powerful and radiated dark energy. But Emily stood her ground. She used her knowledge, an amulet, to neutralize the artifact and return it to its rightful place. At that moment, a battle ensued. The dark forces tried to block their path to the light, but thanks to their gathered wisdom and magic, they managed to escape from the underground and complete the ritual. The dark forces were destroyed and balance was restored. Emily and her team returned to their home, where their family awaited them. They shared their adventures and how they had managed to defeat the darkness. The family was proud of Emily and ready to support her in her magical struggle. But she knew it was just one stage on her journey. Her family's secrets remained undiscovered, and she was prepared to go further to unravel magical mysteries and protect her world from the threat of darkness. Emily and her team embarked on a long and mysterious journey that led to an abandoned castle. The path was littered with dust and ancient footprints of those who had boldly ventured into this gloomy corner. The castle appeared like something out of dreams, towering over the forest and shrouded in secrets. Its imposing walls seemed like guardians of treasures, but Emily knew she had to enter to save her world. They crossed a bridge over a dark moat and entered the castle. Inside, dark corridors and mazes, forgotten for centuries, awaited them. Emily could feel the power of the past permeating every stone and wall of the castle. Their search began with a careful exploration of the castle. They examined every nook and cranny, every room, hoping to find the corner where the artifacts might be hidden. Voices from the past whispered riddles and hints to them, but the answers seemed to be deeply hidden within the castle. But the deeper they delved, the stronger they felt the dark forces lurking inside the castle. Unexplained sounds, footsteps, and shadows pursued them, and fear began to nip at their heels. Soon, they discovered a hall where the Guardians of Secrets were stationed. These guardians were ghosts, devoid of living sensations, forever bound to this place. They were ready to protect the castle from anyone attempting to take its treasures. Emily and her team tried to reason with the ghosts, but they wouldn't listen. All attempts to bypass the guardians were in vain, and they had to face them head-on. The battle was fierce, but the guardians were lifeless and unstoppable. The battle with the spectral guardians erupted like a whirlwind. Emily and her team were forced to defend themselves against the attacks of the ghosts who were devoid of living sensations and felt no fear of death. Emily turned to her magical powers, an amulet, to find vulnerabilities in the guardians. She realized that the ghosts were bound to this castle and couldn't stray far from it. This gave them a slight advantage. The struggle continued, and the ghosts began to appear increasingly uncertain. Emily and her team found a way to lift the curse that kept the ghosts in this place, and gradually, their attacks weakened. However, in the course of the battle, the ghosts managed to inflict injuries. Emily and her companions were exhausted, their clothing torn, and the amulet stained with blood. But they didn't give up and didn't stop. Their goal was too important. Finally, the ghosts relented and vanished, passing into another realm. Emily and her team slowly rose from their knees and continued their search. They knew that the castle's most crucial secrets were still beyond their reach, and they would have to endure even more trials to achieve their goal. After the battle with the spectral guardians, Emily and her team continued their journey deeper into the dark castle. Here, they encountered even darker and more mysterious corners. Before them lay halls and chambers filled with ancient relics and artifacts. But each step further into the castle became increasingly challenging. They faced traps, invisible barriers, and ghostly illusions that obstructed their path to finding the artifacts. Emily sensed that the castle possessed its own consciousness, and it was unwilling to have its treasures stolen. The ancient scrolls and records they found hinted that the artifacts resided at the heart of the castle, guarded by a powerful sorcerer. In search of this chamber, Emily and her team explored every corridor, every door, and every dark nook. The castle concealed its secrets and led them into dead ends, but they didn't give up. Through the walls of darkness, they discovered a chamber where an altar adorned with ancient symbols and signs stood. Here, they felt a potent magical presence. The artifacts they sought, ancient scrolls, magical crystals, and amulets brimming with the power of the past, lay upon the altar. Emily knew that their task was nearly complete. She and her team retrieved the artifacts and began preparing to conceal them. However, at that moment, the castle came back to life. Its walls ignited, and its magical forces rallied to protect their treasures. They realized that they had only one chance to hide the artifacts before the castle sealed its doors and denied access to its treasures. Their path was now blocked by the castle's last trials and the battle with the awakening magical power within it. The castle, as if coming to life, began to manifest its magical power in the form of living forces and obstacles. The walls stirred as if waking from centuries of slumber and became covered in magical runes that gleamed with a blue fire. Emily and her team felt an internal storm building within the castle. The air filled with magical energy, and the castle started to move like an immense living entity that refused to relinquish its treasures. They knew that time was running out. Emily focused and began the ritual to conceal the artifacts. Her team's friends protected her, repelling the attacks of the magic that assailed them. Magical barriers and traps sprang up around them, and they had to expend their last ounce of strength to overcome each obstacle. Fear and uncertainty gripped them, but they knew this was their only chance. Seconds felt like hours, but finally, Emily completed the ritual and concealed the artifacts in one of the ancient tombs outside the castle. The castle closed its doors in front of them, leaving them stranded outside, unable to return. Inside the castle, the power of darkness intensified, and they knew that the artifacts could no longer be used for evil. However, the price they paid was high. Emily and her team returned to their friends and family, their bodies marred by pain and magical marks, and their souls touched by the magic they had encountered. The walls trembled, and a magical aura filled the air as if the castle itself had come to life and started to defend its treasures. The dormant dark forces within began to manifest. Shadows became denser, and the ghostly guardians, protectors of the treasures, began to return. They were not pleased that the artifacts had been stolen, and they were willing to go to any lengths to retrieve them. Emily and her team realized that they needed to battle these dark forces if they wanted to survive. They launched an attack, using their magical powers and weapons to fend off the attacks of the ghosts and other terrifying creatures. The castle's forces were unpredictable and deadly. The dark ghosts could change shape and attack from all sides. Their attacks were elusive, and darkness consumed all light. Emily and her team continued to fight, despite exhaustion and fear. their amulets, and spells struck against the dark forces, and they began to notice that the ghosts were weakening. They were bound to this castle and couldn't stray far from it. Finally, after countless endless battles and sacrifices, the dark forces began to relent. The spectral attacks weakened, and the castle began to slow down its onslaught. Emily and her team were exhausted and wounded. They realized that the battle with darkness had left them with irreparable mental and physical scars. But they knew that the most challenging part was still ahead, completing their mission and hiding the artifacts to ensure the dark forces could no longer use them. After the battles with the dark forces, Emily and her team continued to move forward, knowing that they had very little time left before the castle closed its doors to them forever. Inside the castle, an ominous silence prevailed, and they could sense the entire magic of the castle converging in one point, the room where the artifacts were kept. Emily knew this was their last chance to hide them before the darkness and evil could use them. They navigated through labyrinths and dark corridors, but the castle refused to let them linger in one place. The walls moved like living entities, creating an ever-changing labyrinth. Then they stood before the door leading to the heart of the castle. The door was securely locked, and they realized they needed to solve a puzzle to proceed. Inside the room, they found an ancient altar adorned with magical symbols whose meaning was a mystery. Emily examined the altar and understood that they needed to pass through a series of trials to unlock the door. The first trial was the trial of lies. Each team member had to reveal the truth about their deepest fears and doubts. Any false answer led to more challenging trials. Next was the trial of strength. They had to demonstrate their physical strength and bravery by overcoming obstacles and barriers. The final trial was the trial of consciousness. Each of them had to confront their own fears and past mistakes to prove their unwavering resolve. Their struggle with the trials was brutal and exhausting, but they didn't give up. Each time they successfully completed a trial, the door opened a little wider. Finally, they completed the last trial, and the door swung open. They entered the central hall where the artifacts were stored. But as they arrived, they realized that the castle had prepared one final dreadful trial for them. Inside the hall, their own fears awaited them, the ghosts of the past, and the darkness that began to engulf them. Emily and her team understood that this was their last chance to escape and hide the artifacts, but their strength was depleted. Their story concluded in the Hall of Darkness and Horror, and the dark forces of the castle emerged victorious. The artifacts became part of the evil, and their power was restored. Their magic vanished into the boundless expanses of the castle, and Emily and her team disappeared forever. The darkness they had attempted to stop now held sway over the castle, and possibly the world. Emily and her team's tragic tale served as a lesson on the horrors that the thirst for power and wrong decisions can bring.